Hey everybody, welcome to this show. I'm the host Sean, and today I have a special guest with me, Jacob. How you doing, brother?
I'm doing good. Thank you for having me.
Ready? How would you define the study of humanities, Jacob?
Yeah. Sometimes it's a little nebulous, right? Like trying to define that. But I do think it's important to make some distinctions. I think a lot of times people talk about the liberal arts and the humanities almost like they're the same thing, and they're not. I mean, they run in the same crowd, so to speak, right? So like the liberal arts, there's the seven liberal arts, right? There's the trivium and the quadrivium. And the liberal arts are really learning how to learn. They're the arts that equip a person uh, to master themselves as a thinker, speaker, reader, writer, and then also master the abilities to engage. So the trivium, grammar, logic, and rhetoric is really all about forming the individual as a thinker and communicator. The quadrivium really teaches us how through mathematics basically to engage the natural world that God has made, right, in various ways. And so if you master the trivium and quadrivium, like you are fully equipped to study anything. Like that's the idea, right? The humanities then are things like history and literature and philosophy and arts and just all kinds of things. And they get into like, what does it mean to be human? And like, what is the human experience? And like all the big questions, like why are we here? And what is the purpose and all that kind of stuff, right? And so I think if you can just kind of make that division in your mind between like the liberal arts is like as equipping a person to be a really good student and learner and understander of anything, and then the humanities then like are the subjects you would turn the liberal arts on, kind of, right, to go after it and to really kind of dig into those universal questions that never change, that every generation asks, right? And wants to get to the bottom of. The fact that we ask these questions, is part of what makes us human, right? Like, you, I don't know what goes on in my dog's head, like I have some idea sometimes, I think, but but I
Food,
don't
food, food.
think about how to get more food. Like, how can I, whatever, like
Yeah.
indulge this pleasure of mine of whatever it may be. But I don't think, when he's doing something he knows he's not supposed to, he might know he's not supposed to, but I don't think he ever thinks about it. Like, maybe I really should quit that. Like, I feel bad about who I am, and I need to have a moral reformation in my little doggy heart. And like, like it's like our humanity
Repentance.
completely different from the beast, right? This is part of the Imago Dei, right? That like God made us in His image. Out of all the things God made, we are most like Him, right? And so we have this higher reasoning, this higher conscience, this higher, moral quality that everything else, every other creature doesn't. So yeah, it's just the humanities are all that, man. Just like where do we come from? Where are we going? Why are we here? What's our purpose? What makes life meaningful? And there's a thousand, a million maybe ways to explore that in different avenues, right? So when I talk about this, I could easily hear somebody say, "Oh, he thinks like being an engineer or doing anything like practical is not worth your time," and like that is definitely not at all what I'm saying, right? Like I thank God for people who know how to make buildings. I thank God for people who know how to make airplanes and fly them, and I thank God for plumbers and people that my air conditioning is working right now, like service industries, all of those, or even like very mathematical or like construction, like whatever it may be. Or I want my like if I have to have surgery, I want my surgeon to be like technically expert. Like I really want them to like think a lot about what they do as a surgeon, and so I by no means am trying to throw shade or anything like that. Here's what I would say though: I want my surgeon also to be a studier of the humanities, right? A
Yeah.
student, because I want my surgeon to have a good moral philosophy, right? And I think also that the plumber who's making more money than I am, by the way, doing plumbing,
Yeah,
I think
kudos.
which is great. God bless you, man. Like I do it, but like I think that the plumber would live a greater life, a more of the good life, right? If not only is he an excellent plumber and knows how to do all kinds of things with wrenches and U-bends and all kinds of stuff, right? But like as he's working on that, he's thinking about that Augustine book that he read, and he's thinking about, you know what I mean? Like
Yeah, totally.
what I actually don't want us all to be is so specialized in anything that we become like narrow beasts in a chute, right? And so one of the things that the liberal arts and humanities do for us is they let us connect to other people. So like this is why like I'm so passionate about classical Christian education, because I want students to go forth from my school and become everything. Like I want some of them to be senators, I want some of them to be doctors, I want some of them to be lawyers, I want some of them to be truck drivers, I want some of them to be, I don't like, it's like
Hmm.
don't think for a minute that like I actually care what you do as long as you're doing something that glorifies God and you're working hard for your family. Like praise God, right? It's good. I want you to do every possible kind of work and vocation that's out there. I just want you to be a thinking person while you do it. I just want you to be a person who loves what is true and good and beautiful while you're doing whatever you're doing. And I want you also to be able to connect with other people. Like so when we specialize in education as is the want of today to an extreme,
Hmm.
what happens is I can't talk to my neighbors. Like,
Right.
well, I'm in the, I'm in the medical field and he is doing whatever, and it's like we can't, I don't know anything about you. I don't know anything about what you do. Like I don't understand you. We just don't talk. Whereas like if everybody has a classical liberal arts education as their base, right? Doesn't matter what they go on to specialize in, and please go on to specialize in something, but they can talk to each other because like, oh, you've read Shakespeare, oh, you've read Beowulf, oh, you also studied the great Greeks and the Romans, oh, you knew like this about the medieval period. Like you can have these wonderful conversations, and not only that, but you've learned the basis, the seeds for where all of these other vocations came from, right?
Mhm.
So I may not know everything about what you do, but I do know something about what you do because I learned the basic form that became that other experience, that other speciality. So
I
that's why
agree.
Joseph Pieper, who is
Hmm.
my probably my favorite philosopher of the 1900s, right?
Yeah.
He's a German philosopher, very interesting guy. I mean,
Hmm.
he lived through World War II as a German philosopher, a Christian German philosopher, right? And there's really an interesting story about how hopefully I don't lose the thread of where I was going to go, but I got to tell
Yeah.
you this little story about him, right?
Hmm. Go for it.
So there's a little interesting story about during World War II, Hitler was shutting down all of the printing presses except for the ones that were publishing like his propaganda, right?
Mm.
And so Josef Pieper worked at this small Christian printing press, and like, so the Nazis were controlling the flow of paper. Like they used hard to get paper, but they had a source, and so they were just doing it. They were just still printing stuff, right? And so they also had a guy who was kind of inside the regime, but not really for Hitler. And so like they were destroying literature like left and right, burning books, right, and especially Christian literature. And so there was these boxes of books from this Christian publishing house that were created and marked for destruction. And this guy they had on the inside relabeled them and had them sent to the front. So these German soldiers received tons of Christian literature to read in the front of World War II, right?
Okay.
Um, and so anyway, I'm just, I just think
Yeah.
it's cool that Mr. Pieper is just like a part of this like little
Yeah.
rebellious, little literary rebellion, that's going on in Germany. Anyway, so he's just a really cool guy.
I love it.
Um, and but anyway, so the point I was going to make about him is he has written a book called Leisure, the Basis of Culture. I'm also working on a study guide right now for a very short, like a little collection of essays called Only the Lover Sings. It's about art and contemplation. Um, but he, in both of those cases, he talks about how like you need to draw a line in your mind between the concept of work and even spare time and leisure, right? So a lot of people have this concept like, well, I work and work is for money, and that's what's most important is to make money. And I'm not saying money's not important, so don't hear me saying that.
It's a
Like it's
tool. It's a tool.
money, right? But I work so that I can have money, and then I have my I get off of work, and what's that for? And like, well, a lot of people's mentality has become that is to rest, like just physically rest, or like maybe shut my mind off for a while, that I might be more prepared for more work the next day. And so like the work world takes over your entire life, right?
That's it.
And but what he argues like that the Western classical tradition, the Western nations like have developed is not this idea of just like the work life, but work creates like spare time, but spare time should become what he calls leisure, right? Which means actually pursuing good, true, and beautiful things during that time. So I mean, if you think about it like this, right? Like once upon a time, people lived as sustenance farmers, or like they would just like sun up to sundown, like work, 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 just trying to get enough food to survive, and maybe it's the true of other things too. Like you'd be a blacksmith, like where it just takes up all your time, and you just wear yourself out, rest, and this just kind of start over the next day, right? But the Western Christian culture over hundreds and hundreds of years really developed civilization to a point where like we live in community. You have a skill, I have a skill. I'm not trying to do everything for my own self so that I have to like, just scrap for everything. And so what it did is it creates like non-work time, right? Like I put in my day, I do my stuff, and like I trade and do business with other people who do their stuff, and we have what we need to survive. And now I have free time. And so what do I do with that free time? That's the big question, right? And so the humanities and liberal arts, right, would teach us that like what we should do with that free time is pursue literature and painting and
See,
music
there it is.
that make life meaningful,
That's it.
right?
Yeah.
And so what people I don't think understand, like they think the point of education, they think the point of all this is to get a good high paying job because having lots of money is the goal. And like, look, I'd love to have more money than I have. So I'll grant you that point. It'd be nice, right? But at the same time, like I would rather be having enough, be making enough, but be able to pursue like these leisurely activities of reading and thinking and writing and maybe painting something or trying my hand at poetry.
Gardening, whatever, right?
Because leisure creates culture, it creates actual civilization, right? And so this is why it's so heartbreaking, kind of, that we have been losing ourselves, and I think the last 150 years in the West, to this idea of like work is life, right? And like rest is just for more work. And so you come home from work and you're worn out. And so what do? You just like you eat something, you turn on the TV and kind of entertain yourself to death and then start over the next day. And like that's not the good life. It's like, and I love TV. Like I don't, so I'm not even like, I love watching stuff. I'm a movie buff. Like I'm not just down on that, but that shouldn't be all that you are. Shouldn't be all that you do. And so you'll find that like going and like just connecting with friends over coffee and talking, and discussing maybe a book together, or just discussing politics if you want to, or whatever, thinking about all of these things, right? Um, it's a better way, like you're meant for more than work. Work is so that you might have access to the good. You're not working for work's sake.
I love it. Before we transition into talking a little bit more about the great book specifically, I do want to compliment you on that. That's a great way of putting it out there. Food for thought.